Hi, folks. Welcome to the Routing Loop, our weekly show about everything to do with networking and edge, I guess. My name is Tom Adamski. I'm one of the co-creators and co-moderators of the show. Today, I'm here to purely ask questions. The show is going to be all Kartik. Kartik is a senior technical account manager, and he's going to talk to us about AWS WAF and some interesting things that you can do with AWS WAF. Kartik, I'll let you do a very quick intro and say who you are, where you're based. What is actually a technical account managers? I think we had technical account managers before on the show, but it's always good to remind folks of what your role is about.
Sure. Hi everyone. As Tom mentioned, this is Karthik Bhimishetty, based out of Dallas. I'm a senior technical account manager, and I've been working with customers on networking and content delivery related services, architecture guidance, etc. Now, to answer the question from Tom, what's the technical account manager? In layman terms, so you own the customer experience you own the customer experience of our AWS customers. We get to be designated for a few customers. We try to strategize their workloads on AWS, help them run successfully on AWS. That's my job as a TAM. And yeah, I was supposed to run escalation as well, but I'm here talking WAF.
Yeah. Thank
Yeah.
you for being here. Yeah, thank you for prioritizing like jumping on the stream. So it sounds like as a technical account manager, you're kind of helping customers make sure that their applications, their services, their workloads are running smoothly. So if there's any issues, challenges, you're the kind of there to help them figure out what's going on and then coordinate with support folks, engineering, whatever it is, solution architects, bring everyone together to make sure that everything is running smoothly.
That's right. In addition to that, I want to make sure the issue doesn't happen again in the future. We want to strategize that, work with customer, collaborate with their operational folks, and see how we can reduce those kind of issues again from happening in the production
Yeah.
environment.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I worked with a lot of different technical account managers. Some of them actually came in to become SAs. They have an extremely good skill of looking around the corners and seeing that something's going to break and that
yeah,
shouldn't be this way because it's going to end up a problem. Maybe not, in the next month, but in a year and a half,
right.
it's going to be an issue.
That's right.
Uh, awesome. Awesome. So we are still in the season of doing Chalk Talks on Twitch. I see folks popping online and being excited that this is a Chalk Talk, and it is a Chalk Talk. So you've run this Chalk Talk at reInvent 2025, Kartik, right? And so the Chalk Talks we're doing on Twitch are actually out of our top 10, I believe, Chalk Talks. So the highest score Chalk Talks that we got from reInvent that people really liked, that people really enjoyed. We're rerunning them on Twitch and on YouTube. I think we're streaming now to YouTube as well. So folks can just watch them, and there's going to be an on-demand video. So if you're not able to catch us live, we actually do get a lot of people watching on demand. You can't ask questions. So if you're not jumping on right now, you won't be able to ask questions, but you still be able to catch the video. Cool, Kartik. So I'll bring up your slides, and maybe you can do an intro and kind of jump into the scheme of things. And if folks have any questions, please pop them in the chat. As always, we'll look at them and then we'll bubble them up and chat with Kartik.
Sure. All right. So today's topic is around understanding WAF. I didn't know AWS WAF did this, right? We presented this at reInvent. We want to make sure we share this info with broader audience as well, and probably answer some questions and continue to help customers on adopting AWS WAF, right? So let's get started. Now, what will we discuss today? So it's a deeper session. It's around level 300. You can feel free to post your questions, and then Tom will be asking me questions directly. So we would like to understand what's your current AWS experience, and then we'll go into like an intro or a background on AWS WAF. What are the features? What are the options? Different options. Probably a small demo on our new console experience, and then we'll go deeper into advanced features and mitigation techniques with AWS WAF. That's the most important thing. Like there's a lot of DDoS happening around the world, a lot of bot activities. How do you protect your applications with AWS WAF? And then finally, we'll close out with some of the WAF best practices. We'll also share some reference links for you to follow up upon. All right. All right. Throughout the session, feel free to comment, share your insights, share your questions, ask questions. If you have any interesting scenarios, feel free to share to the broader audience. We'll be happy to learn together and then explore AWS WAF. Right.
Awesome.
Okay. So in general, I would like to post a small question. What is web application firewall expectations industry-wide, right? Like, so people want DDoS protection. People want SQL injection protection. They want to detect any anomalies in the traffic and then protect their applications. And then they want logging. They want to understand what's happening with their application traffic, right? So all these can we do with AWS WAF? Let's explore, right? What's your current, so to the audience, what's your current experience with AWS WAF? Feel free to comment. So we want to understand what's your current experience. Tom, if you want to summarize by monitoring the comments, please do. Like, are they starting with AWS WAF, or do they already have AWS WAF in their production environment? They are playing with bot control and latest DDoS protection mechanisms, or is just they are here to understand AWS WAF? So
Yep.
that gives us some context. Where do we want to spend more of our time today? And then for the benefit of the audience.
Perfect. We have some comments already that some folks use third-party WAF, but I'm
Okay.
curious to hear, even with the third-party WAF, like what are some of the challenges that you're running into? What are some of the pain points? What are some of the use cases that are hard to solve? Because those are always interesting for us. And with AWS WAF, also share your stories if you have them.
All right. Thank you. All right. So looks like some of our audience are getting started with AWS WAF, right? So we'll spend a little bit more time in helping them understand the basic WAF constructs as well. And then we will dive deep into the advanced capabilities. So, okay, this is what, in summary, what our customers been asking over the past few years, right? So if you look at AWS WAF, if you compare 10 years back versus to what it is right now, AWS WAF has and will evolve a lot to kind of address all the common protections or vulnerabilities happening around the world right now. So we will make sure we try, our service teams try to add more features to it. Now, in general, what does our AWS customers want? Or in general, what does customers want from a web application firewall? So they want to have OWASP 10 protection. So they want threat intelligence, bot management. You want to have managed protection. So probably one-click solution. You don't want to go kind of understand your traffic. You can quickly start with a basic protection and then evolve on top of it. Now you want fraud prevention, you want to maintain compliance, you want DDoS protection, and also last but not the least, simplified configuration, right? So last year we launched something called as new console experience. So it's a very simplified way of configuring AWS WAF. So prior to this, what our users were doing is, hey, go understand what is a web ACL, create a rule, create the rule zero, understand the priority order, rule one, rule two, rule three, define manually and all, right? Now with simplified guided setup and the workflows, it provides you different options for you to be able to select a particular industry, and then it gives you what are the different rules that you want to start with, and also gives you a price estimate as well, right? It's more quicker to apply WAF into your production, and also it provides you rule packs with best practices. We call it as production pack, but if anyone used AWS WAF CLI, it's still the same functionality, but the console experience is much better for you to configure WAF. And then we have improved visibility, and then it also gives recommendations based on the analysis traffic, whether you're using the latest managed rules or not. It gives you some recommendations so that you can. Most of them are actionable, and then you can quickly reduce attacks on your application. So let's do a small overview of the console. Let me create a new production pack. So you can select the application category. You can select, for example, if you're a media company, and then you want to select web or APIs, and then you can add resources. You want to add regional resources or CloudFront, right? And then you can select initial protections, whether um, what you want to select the resource type, and then it gives you some recommendations around, hey, you want to start with recommended rules, and these are essentials rules where you have DDoS as well. And then it gives you information around whether what is the type action type of the rule as well, like whether it's a count, default. We'll go deeper into what is count, what is allow, block in the upcoming slide, but it gives you information what the default action type on that particular rule, so that you can configure, quickly enable your protection, and then create a protection pack for your application. Right? It's very simple. It gets you basic rules that you want to get started, and then with the dashboards that we have, let me show you one of the dashboards. So these dashboards are actionable. So if you look at it, these are the recommendations saying, hey, uh, bot traffic, I already have a rule for bot traffic. I already have a rule for IP reputation. I'm having a rule for DDoS as well. So if I didn't configure those rules in my protection pack, it would show you, hey, probably you would benefit from enabling bot control, etc. So it gives you some actionable items. For example, traffic overview, from which region or from which geographic region you're getting traffic. Maybe you have a use case, you only expect traffic from a particular regions, and then you don't expect from other regions. This is a good way to understand. You quickly add geographic blocking rules into your WAF protection, where you can block additional traffic coming from regions where you don't expect traffic from, right? So and then it gives you information, what are the different client types? Is it mobile, tablet, desktop? Maybe you don't expect any desktop traffic, right? You can check the user agents and then block those immediately. And then it gives you information around top 10 countries. So in addition to that, it also gives you information around the rules. If you have a lot of rules configured, what are the rule characteristics for, what are the traffic patterns for each particular rule? And then if you are using capture and challenge, it gives you information, what is the capture solve rate for your requests. And then if you enable bot traffic, it will also give in a lot of analysis around signals, whether what kind of bot traffic is it non-browser, browser, known bots, AA bots, lot of data. And also it also gathers info whether there is a DDoS attack on your application, if you're protecting it, right?
So, Karthik, you may want to zoom in a tiny little bit just to get a better. Yeah, perfect. And then we do have quite a few comments in the chat, so I wonder if we want to tackle and kind of talk through them and see if maybe you're going to be touching on some of those topics later on. So quite a few folks are using WAF. Some folks I've seen looking to replace network firewall with web application firewall, which is interesting. I don't know if you see a lot of those, Karthik, on your end, but what I often see on the networking side is customers end up incorrectly trying to use network firewall for the web application traffic, where WAF would actually be the appropriate solution to implement, right? Because it does all the things that you mentioned on the application level, but one thing that I've noticed that some customers don't realize, it also does all the traditional IP level blocking, right? So you
Right.
can set up port, protocol, IP address, and then rate limit on that if you wanted to. So it has all the like next generation firewall, traditional firewalling things, plus all of the web application specific rules. I don't know if you see that as a common pattern on your end, Karthik.
So both network firewall and WAF has its own unique use cases, though there might be some overlap, right? But basic is network firewall is a layer 3, layer 4 mechanism, while WAF is a layer 7 protection. So so you could definitely use network firewall to kind of monitor your traffic, understand the traffic patterns. You get that flexibility around um, creating some rules, blocking a specific IP port, etc. But with web application firewall, it's all HTTP traffic, mostly around protecting your CloudFront, your ALBs, related to layer 7 only, and then you can analyze your layer 7 data and then match specific traffic patterns with web application
Yeah,
firewall. So it has its own unique use cases, yeah, and again it
yeah.
depends which solution works for which.
Yeah, but you're saying layer 7 because it's majority of layer 7, but you can do layer 3 rules, right? I can have an IP list on WAF and just block IP addresses
Yes,
if that's what I want to do. Okay.
yes, you can have an IP list, you can create a rule, you can configure IP list and then add a lot of IP addresses that you want to block, and then add it in your rules, and then it will block. Um, and also, we do have some knowledge or intelligence on bad IP traffic. We provide managed rule sets that users can add it into your protection. And what does AWS WAF do is it just looks at the incoming IP request based on your source IP or the X forwarded for IP address, and then blocks the traffic, right?
Yep.
Again, it's all looking at both. So you can do both.
Got it. And then I see a question from Ken here who says they're using WAF a lot, but it can get difficult with tweaking and kind of adjusting it for different attacks. I wonder if you're going to be touching on that a little bit. And also wonder if Ken, was this when you were using protection packs? Maybe that's also solving some of those problems. Like those protection packs are definitely making your experience easier from a console point of view. But if you're deploying WAF using like Terraform, CloudFormation, that experience probably going to stay the same. So then you still need to figure out how you tweak, but it's
Yes.
right.
Yes, we will touch base on a lot of different strategies, definitely. But again, as any other WAF out there, there's no one-click solution for each any problem, right? We got to evolve with the ground rules that you configure and then analyze the traffic patterns, and automation plays a major role as well in protections. So we'll touch base on different strategies on how you can tweak and handle traffic with the available options with AWS WAF.
Perfect.
Okay.
And then
Uh,
before we go, I think there's still a lot of requests from folks. I think Hiverings and Ken are all about like lowering costs on WAF logs. We can't answer that for you in the session, but if you have these requirements, send them to us through your account teams, AWS account teams. You want to hear that feedback because then the service teams can see that this is a pain and figure out a better way to help you optimize. So definitely, if you're
yes.
having requirements like that, send them our way.
I'm pretty sure our product team is continuously working to reduce the pricing for WAF and logs as well. But yes, we will again, thanks for your feedback. We will continue to pass on these messages to our product team so that they can consider this feedback too.
Yeah,
Right.
and I'm going to stop you, Kartik. Still a little bit, a couple more questions I want to touch on, and
Okay.
I think we're going to be good. There's a question about kind of this integration with, I think Bedrock here, but I'm assuming just AI/ML tooling to fix false positive. Do you see customers, and I don't know, maybe I'm stealing your thunder from like a little bit later in the section, but do you see customers doing some integrations where they're analyzing the logs and then throwing them into kind of AI/ML and using that for figuring out how they could tweak the rule sets?
Yeah, so I do have a topic on how to handle AI bots, but specific to the question whether you can use Bedrock or Agent Core to understand your traffic patterns. Yes, I've seen a lot of customers. What they do is they deploy some agents, they scrape through the logs and then understand any anomalies there. And then it triggers a Lambda function to add a rule just to block that particular traffic. So yeah, there are a lot of use cases. Definitely. Um, so a lot of interesting things. I have some topic around AI bots. We'll explore more there too. Right. Okay,
Perfect.
so now let's talk about WAF construct. Now we gave you information how the new console looks like. What does how can you configure quickly, right? Now, what are the basic constructs of AWS WAF, right? So as of today, you can protect 7 resources with AWS WAF, 7 AWS resources like CloudFront, API Gateway, Load Balancer, Cognito, App Runner, Verified Access, and AppSync. And the most common service that customers use AWS WAF with is CloudFront, API Gateway, and Application Load Balancer. I just want to ask the users, do anyone use WAF with Cognito, Verified Access, App Runner, AppSync here? I would be interested to understand
Yep.
because it's very rarely I see customers doing that.
I had a customer deploy WAF for Cognito. They had
Ah,
very strict requirements to limit access to Cognito from specific IP addresses. So it was a pretty simple rule set.
right.
And I think they were putting a kind of another proxy layer in front of Cognito, and that proxy would also be injecting additional headers. So WAF on Cognito was supposed to validate IP space, but also validate any information that was sent in the payload.
Nice.
for that. So it was an interesting use case, and yeah, it's there. It was the only time I've seen it before, so that was interesting.
Nice, nice. Okay, so how is the typical flow when you're using AWS WAF with any of the resource here? You get a HTTPS or a HTTP request from the user. The request first goes to the resource. Now, that resource is going to forward to AWS WAF for inspection. And then what happens inside AWS WAF? So when the HTTP request is, let me take maybe a laser pointer. Okay, when the HTTP request is sent to AWS WAF, which is called as a protection pack, right? So that you configure through the console or using API. So what do you configure inside your WAF? So there are a bunch of rules where you have an inspection criteria with an action to it. Now you define each rule based on a priority order. Now you start with priority 0 and then priority n, right? So WAF applies or does the inspection on your rules on your traffic based on your defined priority order, right? It goes through priority 0 rule. If there is a match, what action do you have? And then if there's no action, what it goes through inspecting for the rules. And then if there is no match of any of the rules for a particular traffic, it goes to the default action, whether you want to block or allow based on the default action that you configure. And then WAF replies back the decision it's made to the resource. And then the resource, if WAF allows it, resource processes further, sends it to the origin or the backends, and then responds with the data. If WAF says, okay, I'm denying that particular request, so the resource is going to send an access denied to the end user, right? So what do you configure in an inspection criteria? So you I think it's easy if I show you a demo.
We might need to zoom in
Yeah,
again in
I
there.
will zoom in. Yeah. So, okay. So when you go to AWS WAF, so you can create multiple rules. Let me add a rule for you to be able to see. So you have four different options: custom rule, managed rule group, marketplace rule group. This is something you can buy, like Fortinet rules, etc. That's out there. It's managed through third party, and then you just subscribe it through AWS WAF, right? And then you create a custom rule group. Let's create a custom rule, right? So you have multiple IP-based rule. This is what Tom was talking about. Hey, can we have a bunch of IPs to track and then block or allow? You can do that. And then geo-based rule, I think if you want to block or allow only traffic from a particular countries, you can do it. So rate-based rules are basically let's say there are like thousands of requests coming in, and then you want to apply rate limiting to a particular request based on the criteria. You can do it. Remember, this is different to DDoS. So we'll touch base. How is it different between DDoS and rate limiting, or both can tag along with each other to protect like request rates, right? And then a custom rule. Let's go to a custom rule. So this is what you create. If a request matches a statement, you can create multiple statements or you can create a chain of nested statements as well. And then there's no limit on how much nests you can create using APIs. So these are the request component. You analyze a particular header or all the headers. You want to analyze the request on a query parameter or a URI path, and then you define exactly matches the string, contains the string, whether it has SQL injection attacks or XXS injection attacks, etc. Um, and then you can also enable custom response based on um, based on the action. So whether it's a match to this particular traffic, you can add some custom response codes as well. Okay, and then you can add a body. For example, if you're blocking through WAF, you can add a custom response body for it to send a particular message to the user too. Right? We'll
So,
touch base on labels. Yeah.
sorry
Go.
header. I saw in the like a sorry header. Is that a response where it's going to say sorry? Sorry, you're blocked.
Yeah, yeah. So ideally, it's sorry you're blocked. You can change it for a better experience.
Yeah.
You can say, hey, maybe throw a 200 and then say, sorry, try again, something like that.
Yeah, I've
Yeah,
seen some
yeah,
customers. I think when you're dealing with fraudsters and places where you don't want to indicate that you're actually blocking the traffic, I've seen customers
yes,
respond with a legitimate 200 and a legitimate answer, so that it looks from like the attacker point of view that they connected successfully and they weren't blocked. Because otherwise, it's kind of there's potential to enumerate and try out different things and see what goes through, what doesn't go through, right?
right. And these are the actions that you can configure on a rule. Either you can block based on the criteria that you define, or then you can count. This is important. So count is basically analyzing the traffic, and then if there is a match on that particular rule, WAF is going to tag it, and then process further down the order as well. It's just saying, okay, this rule, this request match this particular rule, but you don't want me to take any action. What I will do is I will tag it with this particular request data, and then add a label to it. So label, you can define a custom label. For example, let's say this particular traffic is for a login page. And then you have some information where you're having a particular regex pattern, you're analyzing the request traffic, and then you find it suspicious, you can add a label saying, hey, this is suspicious traffic. But you don't want to make a decision to either block or allow immediately, right? So that's what our count and labels are for. So remember, labels are going to be applied for every traffic that AWS matches a particular rule. Okay, you
Okay.
can find it in logs.
Yeah, and labels travel with that request as it's being passed by different rules, right? So if I
Correct.
label something at the top and called it suspicious, but I'm just counting, I'm not blocking, it might go down to like a 10th or 20th rule that looks at, oh, if it's marked suspicious and some other thing is applicable for it, then maybe I want to block. Is that kind of how customers are using it?
That's correct. So let's here, if you look at this particular test WAF I have like 15, 20 rules. But what I can do is I can put each of them in count and then monitor what are all the rules that this particular request is matching the traffic on. And then at the end, I can say, if it matched maybe IP reputation list and not any other things, maybe allow, right? If it matched like 5 out of these particular 10, 15 rules, I can block. So you can make those decisions later instead of straight away blocking that particular request on a particular rule, right?
Got it.
That
So
you
it's
can do
you're
that.
kind of building your confidence up in case
That's correct.
you're very worried about blocking something with a particular rule set that you're not 100% sure if this is actually justifiable to drop that traffic immediately. You just label it, wait whatever labels get applied to it, and then at the end go, if there's like 3 labels that potentially make the traffic dodgy, I want to drop it.
That's correct. So for example, if you look at IP reputation list that we have, we also had a label called IP reputation list. So that means we have a knowledge base of bad IP traffic, right? And then we are saying this particular request match this IP, but maybe I don't want to make a decision right now on that particular rule itself. And then analyze further traffic characteristics. Maybe I'm okay if it is a bad IP, still if they're accessing any static content, I just want to respond to it for SEO purposes, etc. Just don't want to block the traffic. But if it is not a static asset, if it is a dynamic content, maybe I want to block. You can make that decision accordingly. Okay.
Gotcha.
All right. So those are labels. All labels are passed down the order, and then you can, if you enable logs, you can stream those logs into CloudWatch, S3, or Firehose. I know there was a comment around cost for logs. If you're streaming it through Kinesis Data Firehose to any of your SIEMs or even S3, that's the cheapest option out of all three. Instead of directly streaming it to S3 or to CloudWatch. I know if you're using CloudWatch, it makes it easier for analysis. But if you're streaming it to S3, you might need to use some other tools like Athena, some SQL queries for you able to retrieve the logs, understand the traffic patterns, etc.
So Kartik,
Right?
one question on that. So if I understand correctly, you have the option to scope down the logs and basically just log traffic with a particular label. Is that correct? So
Uh,
I could just decide, I don't want to log all my traffic because that's a lot. But maybe if I see a particular set of labels or particular label, that's when I want to trigger logging. So then I'm kind of optimizing the cost a little bit while capturing things that are labeled with the things that I care about. So maybe then I add like a logging label and only log the stuff that I want to be logged with, right?
Right, that's correct. You can also exclude some data. You can also exclude some kind of data inside logging as well to reduce your logging pricing. But we're talking about if you have like billions of requests, it's definitely helpful for you to be able to do it.
Got it. Yeah, but it's good to know that if someone is like, I really want to log. I don't want to enable logging for all my WAF because I am concerned maybe about the cost. I could just scope
Right.
it down, match it on a label, and then just log stuff with a particular label that I'm interested in, and then maybe remove that label if
Yes.
I'm not having to capture stuff.
Yeah. And also, if you don't have logging, but still you want to analyze, there is something called a sample request. You can enable it. That gives you last 3 hours of data that you can look at from the console and then see what are the traffic patterns for it as well. Okay.
Good.
All right. Okay. Let's move ahead.
I think,
S-
Karthik, just before we jump, wanted to confirm, are we going to touch on the actions later on in the session? Because there are some questions related to...
Yes.
Okay, perfect.
So we talked about allow, count, and block. On purpose, I didn't talk about capture and challenge because we're going to touch base on it in the
Excellent.
further
Excellent.
slides. Okay.
Yep, because there's questions already about WAF tokens and how they work, so
Right.
I
We are
appreciate
going to talk through it. One more important thing, something in the red WCU, which I missed to cover. So WCUs is WAF capacity units. So remember, by default, you get 1,500 WCUs free of cost. And anything more than that, up to 5,000, there is an additional cost to it, right? So when you're especially if you're using rule groups. So we talked about rules, and then there's another concept called rule groups, right? What you can do is you can create bunch of 10 15 different rules which can be applied across multiple production packs. So you configure a rule group where you don't want to go into each and every production pack, reconfigure the same rules. You can configure a rule group and then add it into the production pack straight away, right? So when you're doing that, rule groups, you got to decide how much WCUs that you want to enable for that particular rule group. So and then if you are cautious about costs, make sure you're monitoring your WC usage, right? Because WAF capacity units are something AWS WAF uses for it to allocate resources to analyze the traffic, right?
And then the rule groups, I'm assuming I can share them using Resource Access Manager across accounts, right? Or how do I deal with, like, I created
So,
a rule group in account one, but I have a bunch of deployments across different accounts. Is there a way for me to...
so rule groups are basically per region. Okay, you got to configure in each region and in each account. On the resource
Is there a way
manager,
to share? Yeah, is there a way to share? I can't remember if there's a way to share some of the web application firewall constructs.
I'm not sure about it. I think we can check on it.
Where you can
Yeah,
see you
on
need to log in. I'm gonna
I'll
let you
log
log
in.
in.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah, because I thought you could share something over Resource Access Manager across accounts. I get that the regional restriction is
Yeah,
there.
correct. You
Okay,
got, but you
okay,
can use something called as firewall manager to be able to replicate those configurations
yep.
across n number of accounts. If you don't want to manage WAF for a particular region, you can, if you have a network administrator account with firewall manager, that's something customers use it to deploy it kind of a common rule set across all applications that helps you to enable, let's say, if there is a new application that is created or a new ALB created, firewall manager can quickly enable WAF to it as well. So it helps for operationally as well, and also compliance too, right?
Got it. Yeah. So you build a rule group and then you have file manager enforce that rule group on any construct that supports WAF. And this could be done based on just for all my load balancers or maybe all my load balancers that are tagged with a particular, production equals
That's
true.
correct. That's right.
Okay,
Yeah.
cool.
So, all right. So we'll go. I know we touched base on basic WAF constructs. I know there are a lot of settings for something for someone who's starting new with AWS WAF. I know there are a lot of settings to play with, but yeah, it's very simple. We made it very simple. You can easily get started. Now, okay, now you got started. Now, how would you evolve your rules with WAF, right? Now you're analyzing the traffic patterns. Now, how do you kind of tweak your rules? There was a question from our users, from the audience as well. How do we tweak? How do we monitor? And then what are the different additional capabilities that we have to enhance your protections, right? So over the years, now if you look at it, the threats, application threats has increased from use kind of attacks happening from single IP to multiple IP. Now there are services like bots as a service where users can subscribe and then attack on someone like that. So it's more sophisticated. Even bots can behave as if they are humans. It's very, very tricky if you want to detect those kind of traffic. Now, what does WAF help here? WAF also evolved as the threats evolve, right? So we also offer a lot of sophisticated threat detections, intelligent threat detections to help you protect your applications, right? So let's talk about some of the advanced protections with AWS WAF. So we can categorize, we call it as intelligent threat detection, threat mitigation suite, right? So out inside which you have bot control, and then fraud control, and then anti-DDoS. Anti-DDoS is something we launched last year. So in fraud control, you have account taker protection and then account creation fraud prevention as well. So now what is bot control? Now in bot control, we have a common rule set and a targeted rule set. So for common rule set, it's basically for self-identifiable bot traffic, like good good bots. You can identify bots, and then any unverified bots, it's going to stop that particular traffic. Remember the common rule set. If it is a verified bot, for example, Amazon bot or a Google bot, etc., those are verified bots. It by default allows that particular traffic. So it's like the default configurations. If it is a verified bot, if it's not a verified bot, it's going to block the traffic. Okay, so
So
that's a
this is
common.
so this is more the common bot control rule set. It sounds like it's more to identify what you want to allow and then block everything else. That's how it's being used.
It's kind of a
Rather than blocking common bots, you probably want the common bots that identify themselves to be able to do whatever they do,
right,
like Google
correct.
scraping your page, and then that allows you to then deny everything else. So if you're not identifying yourself as a bot, but you're behaving weirdly, you might get dropped.
That's correct. So you have basic protection from verified bots and non-verified bots, right? Or it's basically allowing self-identifying bots versus blocking them. Now,
Yep.
targeted is more around malicious, sophisticated bots. Now, someone had a question around tokens, etc., right? So we'll go deeper into it. How does it work, etc. So it uses sessions and tokens to be able to detect user traffic. If that particular traffic is coming from a malicious user or not. We'll talk about what includes in a token, what do we gather, what data, intellectual data are we gathering through the tokens, etc. Right? So it's more of an advanced protection just than a common bots. It's looking at the sessions and tokens to be able to provide the protection, right? So now account takeover prevention is again, if you have any login pages like a bank login pages or a e-commerce login page, etc., where people are trying to use random usernames known or well known from the dark web, well known usernames and passwords, trying with the same email ID and different passwords, or different passwords or different same password and different email IDs in a particular time interval. WAF is going to detect that and then block those kind of requests. It helps you block those requests, right? Now, account creation fraud prevention. Um, so it's to prevent fake account creation. For example, a particular user is trying to create like 100 accounts in a 1 minute interval, right? So WAF is going to detect that, or he's using some email IDs and passwords that's already available, or we have a knowledge base whether that email or ID is a bad email or not, right? So from dark web data. So the WAF can protect that. It also analyzes the response data coming from your application too, whether let's say if for a particular request your application is responding with a 200 etc., and then later your application is not able to respond, it's giving 4xx errors or 5xx errors, etc. WAF is going to keep track and then block further traffic as well. Now, anti-DDoS is protect volumetric and layer 7 DDoS attacks. We'll go deeper into this as well. Okay. Now, what are the building blocks? Now, this is a question one of our audience has. Like, how does this uh, threat detection work? Okay, so we did not talk about the action types, capture and challenge. Now, both capture and challenge action types require AWS WAF token for them to work, right? So what is the actual building block? It's works on something called as proof of work. For example, when a client requests for a get page, um, and then WAF, based on the rule configuration that you have, whether you have a captcha or a challenge, right? And then WAF sends a JavaScript interstitial. Remember, it only works with JavaScript based clients, right? And then the client has to solve whether it's a captcha or a challenge. If it is a captcha, the user has to solve the captcha. If it is a challenge, the browser or the application needs to solve the challenge and then send the solution response to it. And then WAF analyzes it and and then detects whether it's a right user or not, whether they're able to solve that challenge, and then send a token. And then for the request, client will be able to add the token in the request, and then sends the request back. And then WAF looks at the token, if it is a valid token, if it's not expired, if it is valid, and then if it matches the domain name that the client is trying to access, then it's going to allow that particular traffic, right? So how does a token is sent to WAF back, right? So there are two ways. One is as a cookie, which is AWS WAF token cookie, or a header, x hyphen AWS hyphen WAF hyphen token. So if your client is trying to access same domain, for example, they access example.com or amazon.com, if further requests are for like api.example.com or xyz.example.com, it's for the same domain. It's going to add as a cookie. By default, browsers cannot do cookie based for cross-domain access, right? So for anything cross-domain, the particular token is forwarded as a header. For example, you have a simple single page application where you load everything, and then any further clicks on the application goes to different APIs, etc., right? Different web pages or different domains. So you still got to add a token. How does WAF do it? Or how does the browser do it? The token is using x hyphen AWS hyphen WAF token header, right? So what does that token consist of? It includes timestamps, unique browser characteristics like browser fingerprints, immunity times. So immunity time is something you configure on the web ACL, how long you want the token to be valid once it's issued to the user. And then a lot of other client telemetry, whether that particular, what kind of browser is it? How many extensions does it have? What kind of extensions does it have? So it continuously gathers the data, right? And then it includes that in that particular token. There's a lot of data that's gathering inside that particular token. Okay. So
So
yeah, yeah, go ahead.
to quickly summarize, Karthik, so the challenge, the way to think about it is we're validating that the client can do JavaScript. So what
Yes,
we would catch is scenarios where like the bot or the automation, whatever's trying to connect, doesn't have the option to even deal with JavaScript. But if it's something more advanced, which usually costs more money to build, to run, it might still be able to resolve JavaScript, but it immediately increases the cost on the attacker
correct,
side, right? And then
correct.
the challenge is you kind of need to have a human or really good AI tool on the other side, because you're going to be selecting what are the lights and crossings and bicycles on a bunch of squares, or doing different tasks, right?
That's correct. Yeah, exactly, Tom. It's all, though there are capabilities that people can solve these challenges, but at a scale, it becomes very, very resource expensive for them. It's very hard for them to maintain as well.
Yeah. And
Right.
there's a follow up on what you just shared from Ken, related to the WAF tokens. So the WAF token is what you get after you prove that you either can do you solve the challenge, or you solve CAPTCHA, and then you generate the WAF token. And the question is like, it related to multiple domains. Do you need one WAF token or multiple WAF token? If I understood correctly, I think you need one WAF token, but if you do multi-domain, that token is going to live in the header, not in a cookie. That's the main distinction. Is that right?
Yeah, the question is at the right time. I know we have something in yellow, which is called token domains, right? So I'll show you. All right, one moment. So we have something called as token domains
You may need
in
to zoom in a
WAF.
little bit, Karthik.
Yeah. I will do that. One moment. I'm just trying to manage WAF
I don't know what you're doing with your Zoom, but it's really good. Do you have like some additional tool that's doing zooming in?
No, I'm on Mac. It's very easy with fingers.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay. So you have something called as token domains here. You see? So here in my particular WAF production pack, I'm allowing some different domains to be able to accept that particular token. So what WAF does is, so if you're sending the token, and if the requested access is for a particular domain, it's going to check if that particular domain is allowed under token domains or not. If it is allowed, then it's going to allow that particular traffic. Now, simple, if you're doing cross domain access, now the particular that particular resource on a different domain, if you're having WAF on it, you got to make sure you allow the token domains on it, right? You allow that particular token domains so that WAF knows these particular domains for this token is acceptable, right? So, and
So
then
would I set up, so if I say I have in your example, I have there's two domains there, they both would have different WAFs deployed potentially. And in each one of the configuration of those WAFs, I would have to make sure that both of those domains are included.
that's correct because if let's say if it is on a different resource, right? So it's because WAF is again 1:1. You enable one protection pack to
Yep.
multiple resources, or you cannot add multiple protection packs to one particular resource. So all one on one. Now let's say that particular other resource is on a different account or a different, entirely a different, not in your control as well. So you got to make sure you enable those. You allow those token domains, and then so that it can accept that particular traffic.
And it's totally fine that these are completely different WAFs. It's just so like one might be an ALB with its own WAF, and the other one is
Yes.
CloudFront using its own WAF. I
Yes.
just need to make sure that both domains are allowed in both cases, and then WAF is just going to be able to validate and pull the allowed domains from the token itself.
That's correct.
Okay.
Yeah, we are talking about the immunity time as well, right? So when you're configuring any capture challenge, these are like default settings. If you want to change those immunity times on a particular rule, you can do that. But by default, it's 5 minutes. You can go up to like 3 days. But we don't recommend to like increase the immunity time. For example, if someone gets a token, I can access, right? I can just kind of take that particular token and then ingest that in my request and then access your application. So
Yeah.
make sure
So
you decide on what immunity time that you want to allow.
I guess so as an attacker, if I have a botnet that's super dumb, all right, I can't do a JavaScript or captures. I won't be able. My botnet is not able to do that. But then I myself go into the page, I resolve the captcha, I grab the WAF token, and then I give it to all of my bots. If that WAF token is valid for like 3 days, those bots are going to be able to operate for 3 days as if they're valid, right?
Correct, correct. Now that's what a lot of people do. It's like get a WAF token and then try to use in a different application and then try to DDoS the application, right, or
Yeah.
access the application. That
So
this is
keeping
what
it low.
this is
Yeah.
what targeted bot control will do. Will help you. For example, if that particular IP is being reused on multiple from different IP addresses, like you see, a particular token is being reused across multiple IPs. So this particular targeted bot control will help you detect that, right? And then try to either you can set it to block, etc. Right? So
Mhm.
that way, so you can also challenge it here too. But if this is a valid token, it's going to allow it. But again, once the token is
You might
expired,
want
they
to
won't
zoom
be
in,
able to do
Karthik,
it.
because
Oh, sorry.
which rule are you pointing to?
So token
Ah,
TGT token reuse IP. So this is something if someone is reusing the token across multiple different IPs, you can just say block, right?
got it.
So
So the
if
attacker would have to, like, if you set your token to a minute, it's actually going to be really hard for them to, because they'll only have a minute to reuse that token, and
that's
they have
correct.
to come from the same IP address. If they try to use a botnet that is in different IP addresses, that's going to flag in this manage rule set.
Right. And again, and then it also helps you if there is any request without a token, it's going to, you can set it to challenge so that it gets a token, or you can set it to block. Whether if you expect all the traffic to have a token, then you can set it to block, it's going to block any. And again, this volumetric session is how many requests are coming with a particular session token, right? So if it detects like there are a huge number of requests, again, there's no like a standard threshold value that people can define. It just learns the application traffic as they go, and then it makes a decision whether to block that particular traffic if there is a high session from a particular token as well.
Got it. So if I guess I could use it either to capture or do another challenge from scratch, or I could
Yeah,
potentially count it, label it, and then look if it matches with another label to give me extra confidence that something's off with this traffic.
right, right. And yeah, and okay, so now what's the best way to get client side token, right? So either you put a challenge or a captcha on a rule. When a particular request is matching a particular traffic, it's going to throw a challenge or a captcha for the user to be able to solve. Now, what's the disadvantage of that is additional round trip time, right? And then the request has to be resent, etc. Now, how can you improve customer experience? So look at JavaScript SDK integration. So what we allow is we provide when you enable, you can we provide mobile SDKs and also HTML page. You can add a SDK to your top of your HTML. What happens is as soon as the user, the browser or any application downloads that content, first thing it has to do is it has to go get a token, right? And then for any requests, it's going to send with the token. Okay. So what's the advantage? So you're reducing the round trip times for every time. You're improving customer experience. You don't want the browser to reload or something for challenge, right? For capture, you definitely have the need to have the user to click and then solve it. But how does this Java SDK integration help is it benefits from a cost standpoint as well. If you're using challenge and capture on a rule, uh, you get charged based on the number of challenge invokes or number of captcha solved. With this SDK integration, what happens is every time you only get challenge or capture, you get token the first time the browser loads the page, and then every subsequent request is going to have a token, and then it auto renews the token as well. So you don't need to kind of get the new token and again. It just happens on the background for any legitimate user. It just happens, and then they don't need to worry about it. It benefits from a cost side as well because you're not throwing a lot of challenges and captures. So it's basically free of cost for you.
Yep.
Okay.
I think there's a question here from Ken, which is related to the integration URLs, and again, multiple domains. Uh, how
So
would
you
that?
can add multiple domains into the integration URL as well.
Okay, so you would follow
Yeah,
the same logic as you would with the
correct,
domains, and okay, perfect.
correct. So you have something called as application integration. Um, So if you look at it, there are two things, intelligent threat detection, which is like challenge-based integration, and capture integration. If you're doing capture, it does both. It does both challenge and capture. You don't need to specifically do for another challenge, another integration. So if you're doing capture integration, you can just add multiple domains and then take that SDK and then do it, add it into your HTML page. Okay. All right. Um,
So just
so
doing a quick time check because we have probably another 5-ish minutes.
sure. Yeah, so I know we have got to spend a lot of time because we want the users to understand WAF. Now, what we'll do in the next 5 minutes is quickly go through threat mitigation strategies, right? Um, so, so this is something we introduced last year, anti-DDoS with AWS WAF. So when there is a DDoS attack, we recommend to have anti-DDoS managed rule as a first rule so that it learns the traffic characteristics and then it knows when to block, etc. Okay. And then you can send those, it also sends metrics. You have multiple options to configure either challenge all the requests during an event, whether when WAF detects that there is a DDoS event, you can challenge all the requests or you can block those requests, etc. You have similar to all the rules, you have exclusion list where if you have a particular URL or a particular traffic you want to exclude from this rule, you can do that too. But our recommendation is to have it enabled for all traffic. so that it can get a baseline of your traffic and then make decisions whether there is a DDoS attack or throw or block or throw a challenge during that particular time.
Yeah, I think there was a question, and I know we have little time, but I think it's a super important question. Uh, like, how is it complementary with the existing? There was a shield protection that was related to some automations on WAF, and now we launched,
Right.
and this new anti-DDoS rule set. If I'm understanding is correct, the anti-DDoS rule set is really the way to go now with protecting your WAF. Shield Advanced you can still probably use to get like layer 4 information about what's happening, cost protection for layer 4, I guess. But ultimately for your layer 7, the anti-DDoS rule set is the way to go. Is that the way
So
to
I
understand it?
think,
Or
yeah, recommendation is to have both, because if you look at it, Shield Advanced provides layer 3 or 4, as you mentioned. And also, additional advantage with Shield Advanced is like protection groups, where if you have similar applications, for example, you have ALB1, ALB2, ALB3 differently, not a part of same application, but they are similar applications serving traffic. You want to apply same detection mechanisms across when there is an attack on one application and not the other applications. So Shield Advanced will apply same protections across multiple applications as well. Now, if you, on the contrary, this particular DDoS traffic is on 1:1 application specific, right? So you add a protection pack to a particular resource, and then it's going to only analyze that particular resource traffic, right? So there are advantages on using Shield Advanced. So our recommendation is to use both. And then you with Shield Advanced, you get DDoS protection. You have a cost complementary as well, like 50 billion requests per month. We can share the pricing page, but I think you got a cost benefit as well with Shield Advanced and using WAF too. Okay.
Mhm.
And yeah, so there was some question around AI bots, right? With WAF, you can definitely detect AI related activity. If you recall, we talked about AI category inside common bots. What you can do is you can match a particular traffic on a particular label, and then say if that particular request is coming from an AI, you can do some automation with CloudFront, for example. You can have CloudFront functions or Lambda at edge, and then redirect that particular traffic to kind of a payment URL, and then have them pay, and then scrape your application, right? So and then WebBot auth is something we launched with which works with Bedrock. So for example, if um, it only as of today it works with Bedrock Agent Core. If any requests coming from Bedrock Agent Core, this will be able to understand that and then allow that particular traffic because it's a trusted bot activity, right?
Got it. So I think, Karthik, I think this is probably a good slide to end on, considering we have 2 minutes left and we need to
Yep.
start winding down. Uh, so it sounds like for bots, we do have now the WebAuth auth, which is fairly new. You're saying right now it only works with Bedrock. So I have to register with Bedrock so that I can become an authenticated bot ultimately, right?
You don't need to register anything, it just works.
Okay.
So we have labels added for it as well. So it will be able to detect and then allow that particular traffic.
But if I'm a bot owner that wants to be added to the list, I would have to somehow find a way
Um,
to.
I still think I don't know how it's going to work. We still haven't launched that, so probably watch out for our launch page
Got it.
further.
Okay. Cool. Karthik, thank you so much for spending the time with us and sharing
So
your knowledge on
yeah,
WAF.
thank you,
Uh,
Tom. Thanks for your audience, for the audience as well. Sorry, we had to spend a lot of time on basic stuff, help you understand WAF. But we will try to again come up on the routing loop and then talk more advanced protections with WAF somewhere in the future. Please watch out our page for those details.
awesome. Thank you, and thanks everybody. See you next week.